Okay, so we're on air. We're still assembling people, but I was getting messages of why hasn't it started yet? So we're starting. We're just having the usual. Oh, there's Eric. He's shown up. Hey, there he is, and he's got video as well.
Yeah, awesome.
So that's good. Let me see what the constant pinging is from people. Okay, we are on now. Okay, so probably not going to be I always say this. Probably not going to be a long meeting because I just didn't get the time to do as much as I wanted to this month, which is getting to be a common thing. It did finally prompt me into the notion that I had to offload a bunch of this stuff or it's not going to get done. So that's why, as of Monday, I started dumping things into GitHub issues and calling for volunteers even more vocally. And then now people can go and grab issues off of GitHub and jump on tasks and just start helping out.
Right.
So, hey, Martin, we're on air, by the way.
Okay. Hi, Dick. Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Welcome, Eric.
Josh can't join us today, and I haven't heard from Heather, which is not unusual, but I'm guessing she won't be here either today.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
But we have a quorum, so that's the main thing. Did everybody? I know it was short notice. Did everybody get the agenda?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to go over to, because nobody needs to see my face. I'm going to go over to screen share, and I'll bring this stuff up. All right, screen share my screen, and let's start with the SIP slip list, I think, first. Because that was first on there. So Scala lang.org slip. No, just Scala lang.org. Contribute and SIPs. Okay. So these are our current ones. I mentioned in the agenda, I did reach out to Philip and Jason. I suspect they've been very busy. I reached out and pinged them to see if they can submit SIP22 as a slip, and gave them the document. It hasn't happened yet. I'm thinking that maybe I'll just put it in. The work's done, so I can just submit it as a pull request and then sort of basically hook them up to it so that they see any comments or stuff that happens there. Other than that, I think maybe we just go through these. Are there any changes in any of these SIPs?
I haven't seen any.
Okay. Nothing new in 24 or 25 yet?
Let me just bring up the list.
Sure. It's okay if there's not. It's a slow. We're getting the process started slowly, but as long as we keep it moving forwards, that's good.
What was 24 and 25?
24 is repeated by name parameters, and 25 is trait parameters. They were the. Yeah.
We have the initial one. I haven't gotten feedback on them yet.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess what would happen to move them forward is that there's an implementation in Scala C. I think that would be the next step for them.
Oh, you guys weren't actually seeing my screen shared, were you? I didn't get that far. Sorry.
Okay.
I can work this technology stuff eventually. Okay. There we go. Okay, so I'll try and get hold of Jason again. I suspect he's quite busy with Scala 2.12 stuff, so I'm not too surprised it didn't happen this month. But I'll try and stay on that one. So that's probably it for the SIPs for now. You guys saw I actually managed to get the blog going, so I'm going to start just producing the meeting notes, the meeting minutes on there, at least to start with. And we really want to try and get more people subscribed to the blog, so I'm actually trying to find people to post other things on the blog so that people will want to read it rather than just thinking it's a place where we dump meeting notes from SIPs. So that's ongoing. And then the other thing is the issues on Scala Slip now. So we can run through these quick, and then I wanted to seek ideas on getting the word out better, because that's, I think, the biggest problem that we've got right now. All right. So I think probably the one with the most activity is the backticks in string interpolation. This one, I contacted Kevin, and he actually got quite involved again. So far, what I've managed to piece together is that SumSnit actually does have an implementation of this, a prototype implementation, but there were some comments from Jason, I can bring this up, about there being some backwards compatibility issues to figure out. This one in particular, I would have thought that we need to first deprecate trailing underscores in interpolated IDs to effect this change in a backward compatible manner. And then he's got an example. So it's not a slam dunk yet, but this one at least seems to be moving.
So there was a thread about this on one of the mailing lists, in which I think there were some skeptical comments from Martin. I'll try and find the link so I can add it to this ticket.
That's great. Yeah, that's. I hope the tickets are just like a brain dump at the moment. They're a bit coarse, but I hope that they will become sort of living part of the process to keep all this stuff together. It clearly wasn't very well organized in my brain, so I had to do something better than that.
Right.
Okay, so that's that one. And then most of the others didn't move much, unfortunately, so we're still trying to get this process off the ground. I think it'll be slow going for a while. The slip submission, slip 22 submission, I have the information on that. I accidentally closed it and then reopened it, so please ignore that. Hit the wrong button on the plane. But basically, it's been converted to a slip. The submission of a converted slip document by one of the original authors has been requested. I sent them the document. It just hasn't happened yet. But I can, as I say, I can probably just submit it and then mark Philip and Jason as interested people on there, so they get all the traffic.
Okay.
This one's the big one. I haven't even started on this because I was afraid of the commitment level that it would take at the moment. But this is the whole question about either or, XOR, of course, coming from CATS now, and the larger picture of validation and how this all fits together. And we thought that this might be the first expert group that we had to put this together. Bill has actually contacted me this morning and at least volunteered to start rounding up people who would be interested. So that's a start. That'll get it moving. The bigger task for this will be somebody to actually coordinate the whole thing and make sure it doesn't get derailed or fall into disrepair or whatever.
Yeah.
So that's basically, we've got it written down. Bill's sort of rolling on the first step of it. But not much progress there either. One thing I did, I wanted to say, I'm trying not to have opinions on too much of this stuff because I'm trying to be impartial until we get this thing off the ground. Plus, I can't really get involved in anything more than I am right now. But one of the things that I did think about is that there was at least a couple of articles or pieces I read while I was gathering the information on this that said that some of this could be done with a quick fix using an implicit to sort of right bias either. And I don't think that's probably what we want to do long term, but that might be a way that we can buy some time to do something bigger and better. Don't know what you guys think about that.
I don't really see how that will work. I mean, well, I don't know, maybe it could, but that kind of doesn't strike me super well, I guess.
Okay.
There's a fairly detailed proposal on this over in one of the other repos, so I'm just looking for it now, and I'll add a link to the slip repo ticket as soon as I can find it.
Right.
Okay.
That's sorry, go on.
I think one big question is essentially the question of scope. So do we want to essentially minimalistic quick fix either, intermediate replace either and add something like validation, or a bigger one is essentially to say, well, we want to essentially acquire a completely functional library like cats or things like that. So I talked with Eric alongside the Scala by the Bay, and so one thing we could envision is to say, well, what should be a more functional library that would be essentially a module in the standard distribution. And if we do that, then I think we should look at cats, and I guess again Bill probably should have a look at it with his experiences from Scholastic, and I don't know who else, maybe some of the Scala Z people. I fear that I'm not sure what the right level of engagement right now is. Do we think that we can fix either without sort of making a decision for this larger thing, or in which case we should, I think, or should everything be on the table? I don't know what people think about it.
Right. I'm sort of taking notes about this in a comment in here. Obviously, this one was meant to be sort of just a kickoff, get people who are interested in it. One of the deliverables of this should be, once somebody has their arms around what the possibilities are, they should probably inject a bunch more GitHub issues with the next steps or something like that. That could be part of the deliverable of this thing. Can we fix up either as it is now? Is the scope much harder?
I'm very much in favor of an expert group on this one.
Okay, great. And I'm in favor of it partly from the viewpoint of it's something to try to see how we cope with that for future. Yeah. It's like a meta thing. Is this going to work for other larger changes in the future as well? So.
Right. Well, and I do agree that if we have a sense of where we would like to go with it, that makes evaluating something like a quick fix more reasonable, because we know how well it will work in terms of our vision of where we would like to be.
Yeah, I found the link for the quick fix approach. It's a proposal from Rob Dickens. It's now a comment on the ticket in the slip repo.
Thanks, Seth. That's great. Hey, this is working, kind of. This is how we track our issues on a project that I'm on right now, and it seems to work pretty well. So, and everybody seems to love GitHub, so I figured that was the best option.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so that's that one. The rest of these, as I say, are going to be pretty quick, I think, because there's not been much movement. This one was the idea of allowing implicit keyword in for comprehensions, or, as Jason points out, possibly in a larger pattern match environment, so it's more consistent. And it hasn't been updated for a while. I did contact Harold a couple of times, but I haven't had any reply. One of the possibilities is that I have an old email address for him, and he's not getting my emails, or he's busy, or any one of a number of other things that might occur. So all of these are marked help wanted. If anybody wants the job of like trying to track down Harold and find out what's going on, that would be an easy kind of one-off task to sort of re-engage him. Okay, that one. Extensions of futures and promises tracking. I haven't reached out to Anton and Edouard yet on this one, so that's just work that needs to be done. I didn't get as far as that in my list, but this is adding some of the documents out here, but it's basically adding some new functionality to Scala futures, including some more, I think it was some more compatibility with try, the try that's embedded in them. So anyway, we did get one more comment, which is nice. Jean Hello said, since try is the jewel of future, would you consider adding a flat map of T to try of S as well? So anyway, that's movement on that, but not much. Okay, back to the list. We've got the binary literals and underscores. And I apologize. We didn't really introduce that Eric has joined us. I reckon everybody knows who Eric is in the community, but maybe Eric, do you want to? Eric, we sort of thought would be a good guy to help us bootstrap this, and he seems to have the patience necessary for the role and also the work ethic. So, Eric, if you want to say anything, to say hi. And then the reason I'm mentioning this is Spire was actually mentioned. The Spire literal stuff that you've done is actually mentioned as a possibility. It's not, a given, but as a possibility of a way of doing this in Scala without actually needing to change the language itself.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'll just say a few words. So my name's Eric Ostheim. I've worked on a bunch of Scala open source projects, including Spire. Many of them are associated with the type level organization. And yeah, I'm just interested in helping improve the language from the community's point of view. So yeah, I'm happy to be involved.
Thanks, Eric. That's great. So, yeah, not much movement on this one still, but we should try and get probably you and Aaron talking about the possibility here, and I don't know, see what people say. There haven't been the comments that I was hoping during this round, and I think that's largely because people still aren't aware of this process very well yet. So that's something I added to the agenda a bit as well.
So one procedural question I have for you is, and this is just something, my unfamiliarity with the SIP process. Do particular people who sort of do the initial submission for these things kind of own the SIP, or is it something that someone else could kind of pick up and keep moving with? Like, I see you're reaching out to people in a lot of cases. Like, is the sort of thing that those people kind of own the proposal, or like could someone else who is interested in this kind of then try and pick it up and run with it? Like, I just don't know procedurally like what the process is.
I'll stop sharing for a minute. So that's actually a really good question that I think people will want to know the answer to. The reason we're not really running SIP and SLIP as they're intended to be run eventually right now. What's happened is that over time, because this process kind of wasn't a focus for a while, a lot of the stuff that we're trying to do right now is reinvigorate a whole bunch of SLIPs and SIPs that kind of fell on the floor. Some of them are quite old. They haven't been looked at for a while, and so we're actually, a lot of the work right now is trying to re-engage with the people who originally made them and try and get them gauge whether they're still interested in doing it. They'd be perfectly within their rights to say, oh no, that ship has sailed now, but the hope is that we'll get people to do it, and if not them, is anybody else interested in picking these up? If they don't get backers, this is something that I'm starting to say more and more, is I'm deliberately sort of detaching myself from the opinions side of things right now, and I'm looking at it very much from a process point of view. If there's nobody to push these things through, they're not going to happen. Without volunteers to do the work, they're not going to happen.
I see.
So if you care about it, if people care about it, they need to get involved. That's my elevator pitch for getting more volunteers. So eventually, I would think that at least for smaller SIPs and SLIPs, the proposer would be basically an owner and would either drive the process through or not, in which case it won't happen. And for larger ones, like something like either, that would probably be too big to be driven through by a single person. That's where we need something like an expert group to sort of get a bunch of people. Having said that, none of this is set in stone. We don't know what's going to work yet, and it's all a big learning process. So, but yeah, that's good that you asked that, because I don't think we've ever really explained it in those terms on one of these meetings yet. So that's good.
I think roughly a SIP or SLIP is like a pull request. So it's initiated by someone, and typically someone will see it through, but if other people jump on it, that's perfectly all right as well.
Yeah, I think these things definitely work best. Obviously, these things work best when there is an owner. Whether it's the original owner or not is the thing. But that owner, there needs to be somebody motivated to do this thing.
Yeah. All right.
Okay. All right. Back to. I think we're on to the last one. Share. There we go. And this was one I haven't looked at yet because Seth just put it in. This is the the views in the collection library that I know Josh has been working on. He asked me to help, and I just haven't had time. Seth, do you want to give us a bit of background on this one? Do you know anything about it?
Yeah, so this is just at the informal discussion level for now, I think, but there's a lot of interest. Rex Kerr is actively interested in doing something about views. Josh Surratt is as well. There was talking about it last week at the JVM Language Summit with Adrian and Martin. So there's a lot of talk flying around. I don't think anyone has put an actual proposal forward yet.
Okay. Okay. So it's. Sorry, Martin, go on.
I had a quick look at Josh's proposal, and yeah, I think we should discuss it. But probably it's better when he's present. So maybe if we could have a look like over the next month, everybody at the proposal and form an opinion whether that's something you want. I have an opinion on some things, but I guess I'll hold that until others have read the document, and then we discuss it next time, I would say.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so from the agenda that I had, that actually covers the procedural part of this. The last part is the concern that I have that lots and lots of people now are telling me they have absolutely, when I talk to them about this, they have absolutely no idea this is happening. We've not done, and this is story of my life, not done a good job of marketing this at all. So no one really knows that we're trying to do this at the moment. I wonder what you guys have in terms of suggestions for helping to get the word out on this stuff. We need to build this process. One of the things that the closing panel at Scala by the Bay asked was, what do you hope is going to happen in the next year? And what I hope happens is that people have some trust in this process and start using it. And I want to know how we get there. One of the things I was going to... Oh, sorry. Go on, Martin.
Afterwards. Finished. You were saying something.
I was just going to say one of the things that I know it's cheeky, but for right now, it occurs to me that we should cross-post important stuff to Scala/Scala for at least a while, because people are more likely to hear about it there. Obviously the Scala slip channel is running, but if you don't know about that, discoverability is hard. So if we actually just do a bit of cross-posting to Scala and hope they don't get upset with us and kick us out, that might be the best way to get the word out to the right people at the moment.
You mean the GitHub channel or the mailing list?
Actually, the Gitter channel primarily was what I was thinking, but actually, yeah, the mailing list probably is a good place too. It's not something I generally jump on to do this, but I should.
The mailing list, you get a lot of discussion, and it will probably generate if you want to read the implementers, then I guess the GitHub channel is the best way to do it. But yeah,
okay.
I think GitHub channel is good. Yeah. I think the other thing is if we actually get started and see some of these steps through, then there's nothing that helps more than essentially seeing things moving. And once steps are through, they will be widely announced, so this is a new thing. And that would also interest people to say get involved with others, right?
Yeah, I think so too. I have high hopes that Slip 22, the async stuff, might be one of the first to get through. It looks like Jason actually has something fairly close to sort of, ready there. Okay. If I can get hold of him, I'm hopeful that may be something that actually goes through. It's cheating a bit because that's been a SIP for a while and it's been running through the process anyway. But if we can say that's our first slip, then it gets us past that one at least.
Okay. Right. Okay. Other likely candidates on the slip side, I don't know. What's the most likely thing that we could do? I guess views will take a bit more time because we probably want to think about collections as a whole, at least to get some idea what we want to do there before we commit to something. I don't know whether there are other quick things that we could do on the library side.
Yeah, I don't know. I think, all of us, and hopefully anybody watching this, of which there are 3 viewers I can see right now,
Yeah.
So not a massive audience, but oh, 4. It just went up to 4 as I said that. So we increased our audience by 33% right there. That was awesome. Anyway, just help us get the word out that this is we're taking this seriously. So I'm trying to let people know about it.
Okay. So for I guess the other thing which would help for the process is if you had for each one a clear indication where it is. Like, do we need more input from the proposers? Do we need to, does the committee have to build an opinion, which means that essentially it's on us to actually read this thing and have an opinion for the next SIP meeting and things like that. I don't know whether we can probably tag them with labels or something like that, as if we keep them as issues, which I think is a good idea. If you have to label help wanted, that's a good one, and there could be others where we say, well, essentially it needs to be discussed or needs to be decided or something like that.
Yeah, if you guys are willing to commit to that, it seems manageable right now because there's only a few issues in there. If we can go through the issues and just comment on them before the next SLIP meeting at least, or maybe in the next week or so, that would be, that would be a sign that there's something moving as well. That would be good. Most of them have a link that you can go and read up on the SIP slip in there. So yeah, that would be great if you guys can commit to that, and I'll reach out to Josh and Heather, see if they can do it as well.
Can you post the links to the issues? Are they all in Git now, or
they are all in? They're all in Git. They're all in GitHub issues on Scala/slip, and I will put that into the Scala channel. I'll also post it on Scala internals. Is that the right place? Do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Scala internals, and I'll put it in the Gitter channel, of course, as well.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, like I said, I think the problem we're facing right now is what's the most effective vector to get this information out to people. Once they start, once they get the idea that they can star the Scala slip GitHub, the GitHub project, I think things will become a bit easier for messaging. But a lot of people don't know it's there right now. So.
Right. Yeah.
I'll tweet as Scala Lane about these issues right now. Hopefully that will get some attention.
Okay.
And I'll bump all the issues over to the next milestone, which is the next SLIP meeting. So
if we are going to consolidate around the repository that you have here, I think we need So I think that there's a lot of good information about submitting slips, but I honestly think that if you want to use this as sort of the center of the sort of community discussion around, we probably need a little bit about what kind of input we want from the community at large. In other words, people who are not necessarily authoring a slip, but maybe we want them to weigh in, or we want to get their opinion on it, or like, what do we expect people to do with this, right? Because right now I think it's not totally clear. Like, do I come and just give a +1 on something, or comment on issues, or like what's the sort of feedback we're looking for, basically? Like,
that's a really good point. This is why it's good to have other people look at this stuff, because I've been so consumed for so long with how do people who want to submit something do it. I really haven't given much thought to the other stuff. It's easy to get target fixation. So let me add an issue for that, and I'll probably assign it to me. So update the README, the project README, with what can I do for non-submitters, i.e. reviews, etc. I'll flesh it out, so I'll put this on me and have that done by the next meeting. All right, so that's my action. I can certainly do that one. I bit off a bit more than I could chew last time, I think, which I'm not going to.
And for the SIPs, for the moment, we keep the different things. So essentially, use Discus for comments.
Yeah.
That's the current Yeah. Okay. So.
I think so. I mean, any and all of this can change if it's not
Yeah.
working for people. This is, my philosophy is anything, no matter how crappy, is better than nothing at all. So if this doesn't work, we can change it. But at least having something there will allow people to get involved now. So.
Okay. Yeah. Good. I think then I'm just going back to the two SIPs I proposed, 24, 25. I think there we should be close to actually reaching a decision what we want to do with them. So because I mean, as far as I can see, the proposal is complete. There has been discussion. The one issue, and that's why I'm proposing this, because I would like us to sort of face this issue, is the only implementation is the current implementation is not in Scala C. It's in a different compiler. Is that a standard which we would accept, or would we say as long as it's not in Scala C, it's essentially in the proposal stage? So that's a question, that's an open question. I think we should also talk to the Scala C team about it, how they feel about it. But we have Seth here, so maybe Seth is the first one to comment on that.
I'm going to capture that one quick as well. So SIPs 24 and 25. First of all, I think they need. If you're okay with waiting until the next slip meeting, Martin, we can try and get it wasn't very successful last time, but we can try and get the word out that they're in public review until then. So we're inviting public comments up until that point. And then, as you say, we need to figure out what it means that their implementation is in another compiler for the acceptance state that they'll get.
That's right, yeah.
Okay. So slips 4 and 25 tracking in public review until next meeting. Status the compiler implementation. That's just. I'll flesh those out again. Those will be enough to remind me what the hell I was trying to say. And that's for the next one.
Yeah. So I can comment on the status of the Scala team with respect to SIP 24 and 25. I don't think we've even discussed them yet, and the reason being that basically all of us are focusing right now on the major work for Scala 2.12, which is the Java 8 compatibility, and that work is well underway, but not so solid yet that we're sort of that we yet know exactly how long it's going to take. So other stuff that might make it into 2.12 like this, or might even get pushed to 2.13 is just sort of on hold until that Java 8 work is closer to done.
Right. That's right. I know that about the resource constraints that you guys are having. So I think it's a more fundamental question. Are we accepting slips in a code base which is not the Scala C compiler? It could be a Dotted compiler, it could be a type label compiler, but is that something that is sufficient proof of implementability, or does it have to be in Scala C? My somewhat concern with does it have to be in Scala C is that that's sort of a very conservative view, which means that basically it's in there and might as well be merged, and that means we can't really have sort of slips where we say we want to have something that will find its way into the language sometime from now, where the time is maybe not tomorrow or not the next release, right? Because of course Scala C would be wouldn't be a great idea to already merge stuff that we say, well, it's probably not going to be in 2.12, maybe 2.13. But at the same time, it might be a good idea to actually, well, I think it would be a good idea to put things in zips, even if it will maybe only arrive in 2.13 or some future version. Just so we know where we go.
Okay.
I mean, some of these slips are 3 years old. We're not going to do worse than that, I hope. It doesn't matter if they take a long time, and that's the other thing I do want to say about this is, I think this is more to anybody watching who's saying this is going to take too long. The realities of delivery and resource availability and stuff, that's what's going to dictate this agenda, not a wish list of, this should be done by now. Yeah. If it's not done, it's not done. Everyone here is volunteering, so.
Yeah. So what I can do on 24 and 25 is I think that they have been out there long enough that it is time for us on the Scala team to weigh in. So by the next time we meet, I will have discussed it with Adrian and Jason and Lucas.
That's great. Yeah. So Jason participated in the original discussions, and but not in how it. Essentially, it will be a different. So I don't really want to sort of make an. I mean, I don't really want to push things or force things, and I certainly don't want to sort of force things into the Scala C roadmap by this. It's just, I think, a more general question: should SIPs be tied to the canonical compiler version, or should SIPs be sort of proof of implementability? Could that be another compiler version as well? That's all. And I think that's sort of a question that's difficult to decide on in this committee. So the purpose of 24 and 24 was sort of is a trial balloon to see how our opinion shapes up on this one.
All right, excellent. I did capture that specific point in a comment in that issue already as well. So we'll see if we can get the public engaged a bit on this one as well. I think it would be good.
I mean, from my point of view, I would be, and again, I don't want to try and dictate process, but I would be happy to sort of consider things provisionally accepted. For example, if we have an implementation in Dotty compiler, or we have an implementation in type level compiler that works, and there's going to be, but the cost of porting it over to Scala C is non-trivial. I'm comfortable with some, a working group accepting it, provisionally, provided that eventually there can be like a reasonable Scala C implementation, and that it can be targeted to like a future compiler release. I mean, that seems like a way, because the way I see it, we're balancing on the one hand, you don't want to accept something that's going to be impossible to build and then say, oh, well, someone else is going to build it in the future. On the flip side, since it is a lot of work to do this stuff, you don't want to create a patch that can't possibly be merged for 6 months or a year or something, and then have it go out of date and duplicate a bunch of work.
Maybe that's a good compromise provisionally. So, right. So that means that if things are provisionally accepted, then Scala C wouldn't be regarded as non-conforming to this standard as long as it doesn't implement these things. Whereas you could argue that if these things are accepted, then sort of Scala C has to do a catch-up game. It's not conforming until it has these things. I think I like that. Provisionally accepted means, well, we want to have these things. We voted for these things. Now it's up to the Scala C team to come up with a reasonable implementation. If none is possible, we'll retract it. But for the moment, it's sort of a thing that we want to put on the roadmap for Scala C.
Exactly, and there can also be a negotiation between the SIP submitter and the Scala C team for the possible milestone, right? So the Scala C team can say, well, we're going to target this version, and then the person says, well, great, I'll help prepare a patch.
That's all. Sure. That's for me always was separate to say, well, Scala C sort of would pick up the available SIPs and say, well, what makes sense when to roll into what version in a sense. Yeah. And you're right, that would be good to do that in collaboration with the proposals, because maybe the proposals can help on the Scala C side. Yeah.
In the context of Dotty, I don't know if any language additions have been made yet, but maybe there should be a policy where anything that works in Dotty but doesn't yet work in Scala C should be behind a language import, like an SIP 18 style import.
Yeah, it's a bit difficult, because some of the things are just different, right? So, for instance, details of inference and things like that. So it's hard to, in general, I like the idea, but it's hard to make that 100% tight, because some of the compiler and some of the things just can't fall back on the old Scala C behavior.
Okay, so any addition that's sort of discrete and isolatable, and especially if there's a SIP associated with it.
That could be a good way to do it. I was thinking more of yeah. Let me think about it. The others. Well, one thing or another we have to do, either that or a compatibility Scala C flag or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's once more people start using Dotty, this is going to be one of the big
Of course.
questions that's first on every user's mind.
Yeah. That's right. Okay.
Okay, I think that's it, unless there's any other business.
Well, so the one question I had, and I talked to Adrian a bit about this at the conference Scala by the Bay, but I would like to just make sure we put it forward, is it would be great to figure out what we believe we would need to move forward on SIP23, because that's another one that has been around for a long time. People are interested in. The literal singleton types, and so I guess I know I sort of got an informal status update from Adrian, but I would just like to maybe I can take a stab at characterizing it, or like Seth or you or someone. I would just like to have it publicly, where it's at and what would be needed, for us to sort of look at it.
That's right.
one I missed.
Another one.
That should actually absolutely be a GitHub issue as well. So either you or I will add that. We'll race each other, Eric, to add that one in there. Sorry, Martin, what were you going to say?
I'm just thinking, would it actually help to make automatically every SIP an issue in the other database as well? It's just aids discoverability and discussions and things like that. I wonder.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I think, obviously it's early days for this, but I'm already starting to think that maybe the SIP process itself will eventually end up in GitHub too. There's no hurry for that. There's a mechanism there. There's other battles to fight first, but it does seem like this is probably the way we're going to sort of gravitate.
Yeah, I guess so, because it's hard enough to maintain one process.
Yeah. And my gut instinct is that developers now are more likely to be accepting of a process that's based around GitHub at this point in time. It's one less barrier.
Yeah. So what did Adrian say about progress?
He had said, so that I don't want to mischaracterize him, but what I think he told me was that there were concerns around inference in terms of trying to infer singleton types in some cases but not others, and he was having trouble coming up with a heuristic that he thought was going to work. One option obviously would just be to not infer singleton types but still support them via the syntax in the SIP. That would be the sort of easiest way to move forward. He said he kind of wanted to still think about it a little bit more and try and come up with possibly like a certain amount of inference that wasn't too much. So you don't have like fold left inferring 0. You start with a 0, so obviously you must end with a 0. That's like the sort of worst case scenario.
Right.
So I think he kind of wanted some time to just think about it, maybe.
Okay. I think in Dotty the rule is that if the expected type is a singleton, so inherits from type singleton, or it is already a singleton type, then we're happy to infer the singleton type. Otherwise, we always widen. So the expected type must be singleton, so they identify a singleton, or already a singleton type, and then we will infer that. That's the only. Those are the only conditions, because otherwise it's too tricky to widening. There are lots of traps where you infer a type that's actually not the natural type from the user's point of view.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the outstanding thing. Good. Yeah. So I think that's probably for something to be built in.
The only other thing I'd like to hit is, and it sort of came out of what Eric just said, we have between SIP23 and SIP24, we have about half a dozen different SIPs that have sort of semi-claimed those numbers, even though there's only one with official ones. For the sake of reference, do we want to renumber the ones that are there, even if they're not accepted yet, just so when we refer to one, we don't have the ambiguity? Which exact SIP24 are you talking about right now?
The official, I mean, there is only one official SIP24, which is the one that's on the official SIP
Right.
page. So I actually noticed that there was I already renamed a few issues that were for one having to do with string interpolation. I just replaced the number with question marks. I think we should do that with any other cases of that notice.
Yeah, and get into the habit of, because I was going to ask Eric which SIP23, not because I didn't know, but because there is this ambiguity out there. We should start getting into the habit of always referring to them with their title as well, so people know exactly what we're talking about, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
I think that's it. Thank you, guys. Oh, the next meeting is scheduled for the second Thursday of the month, as it always is, which is September the 10th.
Okay.
So that's just for you guys and for anybody who is actually watching this now or later to know. They do occasionally get bumped like this one did because of real life happening, but what we try and do is bump it by a week if we can, so there's at least a bit of consistency there.
Right.
Maybe one thing we could do or make some progress right now is this expert group on the OR invalidation thing. So I propose that Eric is on it and Bill, because he already volunteered. Would you be willing to serve on that one, Eric?
Sure. Yeah, that's reasonable.
Okay. So we have Bill.
I think that makes sense.
We have Eric. We probably need someone from the Scala compiler team and Scala Z, and I guess that could be either Seth because he's already on the committee, or Jason if he has time, because Jason, or both because Jason already is essentially the most proficient committer to Scala Z or ever, right? So I think that would be a good. But I could also be Seth. And I think then we would leave it to the group to round itself out. What do people think about that one?
Sure. Yeah.
This definitely needs to be decentralized. I didn't get anywhere near to contacting people in the last one, so I'm hoping somebody will run with this torch. That's right. So Seth, do you want to see with Jason whether I mean, you're also both invited to participate, and that I think that's fine. But it would be good between the two of you to have one of them volunteering. Can you see with Jason whether that's possible?
Yeah, I'll talk to Jason about it.
Cool. Excellent. All right, great. And I think once we have three, then they can appoint other members as needed, and we can get going on that one.
That sounds good.
Cool.
Yep. Okay, thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of the day, however late it is. I'm just